It's funny how lies get legs of their own. One minute you're trying to help the new girl carry her boxes up a narrow porch. The next, the whole town has already planned your wedding. And the most ridiculous part? A piece of me wanted the rumors to be true. I never thought I'd feel that way. Not here. Not in this small town where secrets linger longer than cigarette smoke and every smile comes with a whisper behind your back. But then she arrived, Hannah Carter, the girl who stepped out of a car with California plates and the kind of glow that made the world tilt just slightly off balance. The first time I saw her, she was standing in front of the hardware store with a crumpled map in her hand. Blonde hair catching the sunlight, green eyes darting around like she was searching for oxygen. Everyone else just stared at her like she'd dropped from another planet. Me? I couldn't look away. Lost? I asked, trying not to sound as awkward as I felt. She glanced up, lips curling into a smile that was equal parts tired and mischievous. Does it count as being lost if I don't even know where I'm supposed to end up? That was Hannah, always answering questions with something that sounded like poetry, even when she was clearly exhausted and sweaty from driving across half the country. I should have walked away. I should have just pointed her toward Main Street, wished her luck and gone about my day like everyone else. But something in her eyes, lonely, reckless, hungry for connection, anchored me to the sidewalk. By the next week, she was living in the old Whitaker house 2 streets down from mine, the one everyone swore was haunted because the porch light never worked. She moved in with boxes that seemed far too light, like she'd left most of her life behind. And then came the whispers. Did you see the way Sarah helped her unload? They're always together. Cute couple, don't you think? It started as harmless gossip. But in a town like ours, gossip spreads like wildfire. And soon it wasn't just speculation. To everyone else, Hannah and I weren't 2 women navigating the awkward steps of new friendship. We were girlfriends. A couple. Lovers. First, I wanted to correct them. I wanted to shout it in the middle of church, tell Mrs. Whitaker at the bakery that she had it all wrong, scream it at my coworkers who winked every time Hannah showed up at the diner where I worked. But then Hannah leaned across the booth one afternoon, her chin propped on her palm, and whispered with that dangerous little smirk, "Let's not correct them. Let's see where this goes." My heart stuttered. And just like that, the line between rumor and reality blurred. The truth was complicated. I wasn't straight, though I'd never said those words out loud in this town. Growing up here meant learning how to camouflage the parts of yourself that didn't fit into neat little boxes. I dated a boy or 2 in high school, smiled through their sloppy kisses, and convinced myself that one day I'd just wake up and it would all feel normal. It never did. But Hannah didn't hide. She walked through town like she was untouchable, like her skin was stitched from rebellion itself. She wore bright colors when everyone else stuck to denim and beige. She laughed too loudly, teased me shamelessly, and made every grocery trip feel like a movie scene. People stared, but she didn't care. And maybe that's why I started to care less too. One night, when the summer air was thick and heavy with the scent of magnolias, she pulled me out onto her creaky porch swing. We sat in silence for a while, the wood groaning beneath our weight, until she finally spoke. "Why does it bother you so much? That they think we're together?" "Because we're not," I said too quickly, the words sharper than I intended. She tilted her head, her hair glowing under the porch light. "Aren't we?" My breath caught. It wasn't just the question, it was the way she asked it. Like she already knew the answer and was daring me to say it out loud. From then on, everything changed. Every brush of her hand against mine sent sparks I tried to ignore. Every time she laughed, my chest ached with something I didn't want to name. And every time someone in town winked and called us lovebirds, I didn't correct them. But with desire came danger. Small towns don't forgive easily. I overheard my boss at the diner telling someone I was confused and just going through a phase. My mother asked why I spent so much time with that Carter girl, her voice dripping with suspicion. The more people assumed, the harder it became to breathe. And then came the night everything nearly fell apart. It was during the county fair, the one event the whole town showed up for, from toddlers with sticky cotton candy hands to retirees clutching bingo cards. Hannah and I wandered through the lights and sounds, laughing at the rigged carnival games, sharing a funnel cake like we'd been doing it for years. Then, without warning, she slipped her hand into mine. Just like that. As if it were the most natural thing in the world. Time froze. I felt the weight of a dozen eyes on us, the hush that spread through the crowd like a ripple in water. Some smiled. Some frowned. And in that split second I wanted nothing more than to hold on tighter. But fear won. I dropped her hand like it burned me. Hannah's smile faltered, the light in her eyes dimming. She didn't say anything, not then, not later that night. But the silence between us stretched like a canyon. For days she barely spoke to me. She stopped showing up at the diner, stopped calling me over to fix her leaky sink or watch old movies on her broken TV. The town noticed, too, their whispers turning from curiosity to pity. Guess that didn't last long. Poor Sarah, she looked so smitten. Typical. It was too good to be true. The irony was cruel. They'd invented our love, painted it on the walls of this town, and when I finally realized I wanted it, Hannah was slipping through my fingers. The night I decided to fight for her, the storm rolled in like a warning. Rain pounded the streets, thunder rattled the windows. I ran to her house anyway, heart hammering against my ribs, soaked to the bone. She opened the door slowly, surprise flickering across her face. "What are you doing here?" she asked, voice flat, tired. I stood there dripping on her welcome mat, every excuse, every fear, every carefully constructed wall crumbling at once. "Because I'm done pretending," I whispered. "I'm done letting them write our story for us. I don't care what they think anymore. I don't care if the whole town hates me. All I care about is you." Her eyes softened, but she didn't move. She waited. So I took a shaky breath and said the words that had been clawing their way out of me for months. "I love you, Hannah." And just like that, the storm outside seemed to quiet. She pulled me in, rainwater dripping onto her hardwood floor as her arms wrapped around me. The kiss was desperate, messy, and everything I'd ever wanted. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was drowning. I felt like I'd finally surfaced. But if I thought that was the end of the struggle, I was wrong. Because love, especially ours, wasn't going to be that simple. If falling in love felt like flying, the morning after felt like plummeting. I woke in Hannah's bed, the sheets tangled around us, her breath warm against my shoulder. It should have been perfect. The storm had washed the town clean, and for the first time in years I felt brave. But courage has a way of shrinking with the sunrise. Because in the light of day, I remembered the reality waiting outside her door. A town that didn't forgive, a mother who would never understand, and 100 pairs of eyes eager to tear apart whatever fragile thing we'd built. Hannah stirred beside me, stretching like a cat, her bare skin glowing against the morning light. She caught me staring and grinned lazily. "You look like you've just seen a ghost." "More like I've seen the end of my life," I muttered. Her smile faltered. "Don't ruin this, Sarah." "Not yet." But even as she said it, I saw the flicker of doubt in her eyes. She wanted me to be strong enough for both of us. She didn't know that fear had lived in me longer than she had. The gossip didn't take long. Small towns were efficient like that. By the time I showed up for my shift at the diner, Mrs. Whitaker was already perched at the counter with a knowing smile, stirring her coffee like she had all the time in the world. "So," she said casually, "I hear you spent the night with our California girl." I froze, coffee pot in hand. "Where did you hear that?" She raised an eyebrow. "Honey, you could whisper something in your sleep and this town would still hear about it by morning." Laughter trickled from the back booth where a couple of high school kids were sitting. My boss Joe shot me a look that wasn't cruel but wasn't kind either. Something in between. I wanted to scream. Instead, I filled Mrs. Whitaker's cup, plastered on a smile, and walked away before my hands could start shaking. When I told Hannah later, she shrugged. "So what? Let them talk." "It's not that simple," I snapped. "Why not? We kissed. We slept together. We love each other." The word hung in the air like a lit match. Love. I'd said it once in the storm when my blood was buzzing with adrenaline. But hearing her say it so casually like it was already fact scared me. I didn't answer. And that silence, God, it hurt worse than anything else. The backlash grew sharper in the days that followed. Someone scrawled "sinners" across the diner's back door in red paint. My mother stopped calling, her silence louder than any argument we'd ever had. At church, people stared at me like I'd sprouted horns. And yet, Hannah held her head high. She walked beside me in the grocery store, daring anyone to meet her gaze. She fixed the broken porch light on her house and lit it every night like a beacon. She kissed me in her kitchen when the blinds were wide open. I admired her bravery. I also hated her for it, because every step she took forward forced me to see how many steps I was still taking back. Then came the night she told me the truth about why she'd come here. We were sitting in her living room, a bottle of cheap wine between us, the flicker of candlelight making her look softer than usual. She'd been quiet all evening, twirling the glass in her hand like she was searching for the right words. Finally, she said, "I didn't just move here for a fresh start. I was running." I frowned. From what? She took a deep breath. From her. My ex. She wasn't kind. And when it ended ugly. I needed somewhere she wouldn't find me. The words hung heavy in the room. "Does she know where you are?" I asked. "No. But that doesn't mean she's not looking." I reached for her hand, my fear momentarily replaced by anger at whoever had hurt her. Anger that Hannah's courage had been born from survival, not choice. "You're safe here," I whispered. Her eyes met mine, haunted but hopeful. "Am I? With everyone watching us like hawks? With you still afraid of being seen with me?" It was a dagger straight to the chest. And the worst part was she wasn't wrong. Things spiraled after that. The whispers turned crueler. Someone left a Bible on Hannah's porch with verses highlighted in neon yellow. My boss cut my hours, claiming business was slow, even though the diner was as busy as ever. My mother cornered me in the grocery store aisle and hissed, "This isn't you, Sarah. You're throwing your life away for that girl." And through it all, Hannah kept pushing forward while I kept pulling back. We were two people holding opposite ends of a rope, tugging until it frayed. The breaking point came on a Friday night, when Hannah showed up at the diner near closing. She slid into a booth, eyes blazing, and waited until I came over. "We can't keep doing this," she said quietly. My heart dropped. "What do you mean?" "I mean pretending this is enough. Pretending we can survive on scraps of stolen moments while you hide in the shadows. I love you, Sarah, but I can't be with someone who's ashamed of me." Her words were sharp, final. And I hated her for saying them because they were true. I stood there, apron stained with coffee, hands trembling, and couldn't find the courage to say what she needed to hear. So she walked out. And just like that, the town got what it wanted. Our story was over. The days that followed were hollow. I went to work, came home, stared at my phone, and waited for a text that never came. Hannah stopped showing up in town. Her porch light stayed dark. People stopped whispering, which somehow hurt worse than when they had. I'd lost her. And the awful truth was I'd let her go. It was late one night when I finally broke. I was sitting in my room staring at the ceiling when the power flickered out. The house was swallowed in darkness, the silence so heavy it pressed against my chest. I thought about Hannah's haunted eyes, about her ex who might still be searching, about how the only brave thing I'd ever done was love her and how I'd ruined it with fear. I grabbed my coat and ran. By the time I reached her house, the sky was bleeding into dawn. I pounded on her door until my knuckles ached. "Hannah, please open up." When she finally did, she looked different. Exhausted. Broken in ways I hadn't seen before. "What do you want, Sarah?" she asked, voice hoarse. I swallowed hard. "You. Just you. I don't care what they say. I don't care what it costs me. I can't lose you." She stared at me for a long moment, like she was deciding whether to believe me. Then slowly she stepped aside. Inside, the house smelled like dust and lavender. Boxes were stacked by the door. "You were leaving," I whispered. She nodded. "I didn't think you'd fight for me." My chest ached. I didn't think I was capable. But I am. For you I am. Her eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. And in that moment I knew this was the turning point. If I didn't hold on now, I'd lose her forever. So I kissed her like my life depended on it. As maybe it did. I thought the hardest part was admitting I loved her. I was wrong. The hardest part was proving it. Because love in a small town isn't privateer, it's a public trial. And once the jury of neighbors and gossipmongers decides you're guilty, there's no walking away unscathed. When Hannah finally let me back into her house that morning, she didn't rush into my arms. She didn't smile, didn't forgive. She watched me like I was a stranger trying to sell her something she couldn't afford to buy again. "Hope? You say you want me," she whispered, her voice trembling. "But do you want me when the church calls us sinners? When your mother won't look at you? When your boss cuts your hours and kids laugh behind your back? Do you want me when it costs you everything? Her words were knives, but she had every right to throw them. I stepped closer, my chest tight, and answered the only way I knew how. Yes. Even then. Especially then. Because without you, I don't have anything worth holding on to. Her lips parted, but before she could speak, there was a sharp knock at the door. It was Sheriff Caldwell. Tall, gruff, the kind of man who believed his badge gave him the right to pry into people's lives. "Mornin', Hannah." "Sarah," he said, tipping his hat but not bothering to smile. His eyes flicked to the boxes near the door. "Heard you were planning on leaving." Hannah stiffened. "That's none of your business." "Everything in this town's my business," he said flatly. Then his gaze shifted to me. "You ought to think twice about getting tangled up in things that don't belong here." I felt Hannah's hand brush against mine, steadying me. "Love belongs everywhere." I shot back before I could stop myself. My voice shook, but the words rang louder than I expected. The sheriff's eyes narrowed. He muttered something under his breath and left, slamming the screen door hard enough to rattle the glass. For a long moment, silence stretched between us. Then Hannah looked at me with something that wasn't quite forgiveness, but wasn't doubt either. "You stood up," she whispered. "I'll keep standing," I promised. But promises weren't enough. The town's disapproval swelled into something uglier. At the diner, customers left half-eaten meals on the table when I came to take their orders. Kids shouted slurs from across the street. My mother's voice on the phone turned from sharp to pleading. "Sarah, please. Just stop this. You can still fix your life." But the life she wanted me to fix wasn't mine. It never had been. Through it all, Hannah became both my anchor and my storm. She was fierce, unflinching, but I saw the cracks to the way she triple-checked her locks at night, how she startled at loud noises. Her past was still haunting her, no matter how far she'd run. And then one evening it caught up. We were walking back from the grocery store, arms full of bags, when a car pulled up too fast, tires screeching against the pavement. The window rolled down and a voice called out, "Hannah! Thought I'd find you hiding here." My stomach dropped. Hannah froze. And in her eyes I saw something I'd never seen before, pure terror. It was her ex. A woman with sharp features, dark hair, and a smile that wasn't a smile at all. The kind of smile predators wear before they pounce. "You can't keep running," she said. "You're mine." Hannah's hand squeezed mine so tightly I thought she'd break bones. But I didn't care. I stepped forward, heart hammering. "She's not yours," I said, my voice low but steady. "She never was." The woman's eyes flicked over me with disdain. "And who are you? The replacement? You'll learn, sweetheart. She always leaves." Before I could answer, Sheriff Caldwell's cruiser appeared at the end of the street. The ex cursed under her breath, slammed the car into gear, and sped off. But the damage was done. Back at her house, Hannah collapsed onto the couch, shaking. I set the groceries down and knelt in front of her, holding her hands. "She found me," she whispered. "I thought I was safe, but she found me." "You're not alone anymore," I said firmly. "We'll go to the sheriff. We'll get a restraining order." Hannah shook her head violently. "You don't get it. People like her don't stop. And people like this town. They'll blame me before they ever protect me." Her fear wrapped around me like barbed wire. But instead of pulling away, I pulled closer. "Then let them," I said. "Let the whole damn town talk, let her rage. None of it matters. Because I'm not leaving. Not now, not ever." Her tears finally fell, hot and heavy against my skin. She buried her face in my shoulder, and I held her like she was the only thing keeping me alive. Maybe she was. The next day we faced the town together. Hand in hand we walked into the diner, not sneaking, not hiding. Every conversation stopped. Forks clattered against plates. The air thickened with judgment. I took a deep breath and raised my voice. "You all want to talk about us? Fine. Talk. But do it to my face. I love her. She loves me. And nothing you say will change that." Silence. Then from the corner booth, old Mrs. Whitaker set down her coffee and said, "About time somebody around here had the guts to be honest." A ripple of murmurs followed. Some disapproving, some surprised, some supportive. It wasn't everyone. It wasn't enough. But it was something. And sometimes something is all you need to keep standing. Weeks passed. The ex never returned, whether because of the sheriff's quiet warning, or because she realized Hannah wasn't alone anymore. We never knew. The whispers in town softened, turning into shrugs, then into silence. People got bored of our love story, and in a way that was a relief. Life didn't magically become easy. My mother still struggled to look at me the same way. Some neighbors still crossed the street when they saw us. But slowly, painfully, we carved out a space for ourselves. One evening, as autumn leaves painted the town gold, Hannah and I sat on her porch swing, the one that creaked beneath us but never broke. "You know," she said softly, "I used to dream of running away forever. But now, I think I'd rather stay with you." I smiled, resting my head against her shoulder. "Good. Because I'm done running too." We sat there in the fading light, two women who had been torn apart and stitched back together. Two women who had chosen each other against the odds. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of being seen. Love didn't fix everything, but it made everything worth fixing. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.